the idea of templates and how you can quote from templates. What I do for you is I do create some example templates of how we do our wedding templates, but essentially you could have these templates for anything. So you could create your own templates for different things. If you've got things like we do a lot of planting, so we've got like things for hanging basket price, window trough prices, we've got templates for those. We do Christmas installations, so again we've got templates for those, because people come and ask you for price of things, and generally it's a perfect measurement. So yes, we go and measure up and do all that sort of thing, but we don't have to work it all out every time, because it's all on our template. So it makes it a lot quicker, and it means any of your staff can quote. So the templates that I normally create for you, I create a template called Wedding Example Template and Priced, and that is where I've thought of all of the different things you could have for a wedding and it's not priced. Then I have used that same template to create my unlocked one where I've put the prices in. Then I also put in here wedding prices locked. Now the difference between the locked and unlocked is if your template is locked, when I start adding ingredients here, it's adding it up here, but my total cost is staying. So that's why it's important when you create templates to lock them. I've created the unlocked one to show you what would happen if you hadn't locked them, which is if you start adding your ingredients here, it is like it is pricing forwards, so it starts adding up my price there, but my total cost is there, and it's taken that price that I've quoted them out. So when you're quoting with templates with prices in, you need to lock those prices. So that's really why I've given that example there. Once you've got your templates here, the next thing I advise you do, and this is something I can't really do for you because everybody's labour charges are different, the prices of the stems are different, the prices of what you may charge in your template are going to be different. So I would always say it's worth you spending your time sorting your templates so that any built-in labour charges are built into your template. So I would say I would come to the lock price. I'd first of all, well actually I probably wouldn't come to lock price. I'd keep the lock price one as a template in case I make a mistake. So I would go, first of all, so I would go to my templates. No, I wouldn't. I would go, this is how you create a template from a template. So I would go to here. I would view my quotation, and I'm going to use a template which would overwrite anything that's there. So I'm going to use that wedding prices locked because that's the one I want to work from. And then, oops, sorry, I haven't done that. I am going to, sorry, going to go that again, options, use template, locked prices. I would then go options, and I'm going to create template, which basically means I'm creating a template from exactly that template. So I'm saving that template again, just under a different name. And let me call this one modifying to create my master template. And as I've probably explained to you in our Zoom meetings, if you spend the time on this template, getting this template right, actually you only do all this work once, because the next year you would just do an increase across the whole thing, so a percentage increase. If you need to increase it for peaks, you would quote on your standard template, and then you would just add a percentage onto it. When you want to, let's say you quote, but you know that some of these flowers are a bit more expensive on here, you can again just modify the template to put a percentage on across the board. So it makes it really, really easy to do that. So anyway, so modify and create my master template, because this is the first thing I would like you to do if you're going to use the template system, is to create a modify and create a master template and create your master template here. Don't worry if you make a mistake, you've got to go back because you've still got it here, which is why I'd advise not just editing that one. Then once you've got this master template, you're then going to go into it and you're going to edit it to what you want. So you're going to read through all of these, and if you don't want that price to be your price, let's say you don't charge VAT. So my prices include VAT in them, so we'd expect it to be at least 20% less. Let's say you are a particularly high-end florist, your prices might be a lot more. You might be more of a budget prices, so you might start at a lot less. So what I would suggest you do is you then just go through everything on the template and you change it to prices that you're comfortable with. If you're happy going with them and rolling with that, well, that's also fine. When you make changes, just every now and again, just save it, obviously, just to, if you navigate away from it, you don't want to lose any of the stuff you've done. So the first job is to go through and make sure you're happy with all the prices. Once you've done that, something that would really help you with your templates, because when you come to creating orders, you always add a labour charge for all of these things. So if you've got it in your template, it means when you're creating orders, you don't need to remember to do that. So it's loads better for you to have that information already in your template. So you're going to come over here and you are going to put your labour charge in. And you're going to say, let's say if a 210, let's say for the purpose of this, it is a £50 labour. Like that. And I'm going to pop that in. Now, I want this, some workings behind the scenes. It can tell me how much of my quote is labour, how much of my quoting is flowers, how much is foliage, etc. But to do that, it needs to sit in the correct category. Over here, this is a custom product, so the computer behind it just sees it as an item, not a categorised item. So to categorise that item, I would want to keep this in as labour, so I'm going to put it in here. And it is labour, but it's labour for my 210 hand tied. And we're going to go labour costs. I probably wouldn't put that in. I'd just put labour costs. And then we're going to do that, and then I'm going to create that. And you can see there it's gone white, which means it's a product which is will be counted as labour. So at the end, when I have my wedding order completely fulfilled, I can tell you exactly how much of that is labour without having to do any sums. So I would advise just doing that as you're going through. Let me just go over here. So I do the same over here. It is time consuming. So we're going to add a custom agreement with, let's say that one's 30. And again, I do the same. I'd hit the tag, I'd put labour, and I'd create that one. And I'd go through my whole template doing that. Let's say I'd already got a 30 or a 50 labour. Let's say this particular one had a 50 labour, so I could go, right, I've already got that, so I can go add ingredients, and I'm going to go labour. You can see things that are already there. I've got wide glue labour, arrangement labour. However, you would build these up as you're going. I'm going to put my £50 labour in there, and then I would have that ingredient would come in here. And I would do that throughout. So I would make sure I'd put all my labours in for my buttonholes, labours in for all of these. I would put my labour in for all of these, including things like we would put for things like pew ends. I would put my makeup labour in, but I would also factor in a cost in my pew ends for putting it out, because that's a time consuming part of it. It's not just the making of it and the making of it and the labour of making it and the cost of the flowers. There's also a setup that I would tend to build into that, because I would say brides don't really like necessarily paying for the setup of it, but if it's all in one, they would see that as more palatable. But again, you might have a different line at the end of your quote which has got delivery and setup. That's up to you how you want to do that, which again is why I can't do this part for you. You're going to need to spend the time putting all your labour charges in there, but it will be worth it, because when you come to work out your orders, it means you're not, every order that you're doing, you're not having to go, well, how much labour do I put into this bride bouquet, because it's already here, because you've already thought about it. Other things I would put into things like this, I would put in my template, in my bridal bouquet and any of my bridal bouquets, I'd make sure any sundry costs that I know about are already in there. So my ribboning of my handle I'd put in onto my template, anything that's always there. I would put a built-in delivery fee, because we always put a delivery fee on our bridal bouquet, because there's always a bridal bouquet. So we offer free delivery, but actually it's not free delivery because it's always here. We would put on things like, let's find them, where is it? Cylinder vases with floating candles. Now this is what we charge for it. A lot of that is actually just the labour of putting them out, because they take an age to put out. So I would build that in. In fact, this one, I could virtually do the whole quote. I could say how much my cylinder vase hire is, how much floating candle hire is, how much the foliage cost is to put in there. So actually that one I could actually completely cost out. And I just literally go through my whole template, putting in the labour portion of it, and then when it comes to creating the order, the only thing I need to think about is what is left. So I would come here, let's say I've added in my handle, let's do 10 for that, and I've added in my delivery. Again, I'm putting these in as custom. I would encourage you to add them once you've got the custom, add them as an ingredient. So one, you can choose them afterwards if you're using them again, but also so that the software adds up afterwards. It will all come apparent as you go through it. Once I've done that, so when I come to price, let's say I get this quote, when I come to work out what my recipes are, there's already £75 of costs applied to that. So I have £135 of flowers to put in that. So then when it comes to building up the recipe for this particular bouquet, I don't need to think about that. I just need to think about how much flowers I am putting into it. So hopefully that makes sense about about why quoting with templates is useful, but also the building in of all the labours into your templates to make it easier for when you get to convert these into orders. In the next video, I will show you how to modify your template to add the increases, and that will show you how important it is just to get your master template right, because after that, it's actually just a touch of a button to add your increases or decreases on.